executive EQ was about how to make better executive decisions, how to have better leaders by having them connect with the emotional quotient, not just make it be more authoritative, be this, be that. It was about connecting with what made them human, which he believed was, and that comes from psychology. So yes, we have our executive functions, but it's tied to the animal brain. So we make as much of our decisions emotionally and then justify them with logic.
All right, welcome everyone to our Friday conversations. Did I click it? There we go. I clapped it right. We are here with Rob Reuter at Action Business Furniture, and he also supplied our wonderful lunch today. So if you didn't come to eat it, you're missing out on not only his food, his wisdom that he's going to be sharing with us today.
All right. I'm doing I look down at my screen because that's just like, and then I realize that like it looks like I'm just like focused on the meeting. So I am here in the room with everybody. Welcome to everybody that's here. Welcome to everybody online at home. Gay is actually on the Zoom call, so we may hear from her at some point. I'm trying to keep an eye out for her and get her to jump in. We have a great topic and a great guest today, Rob Reuter.
Yeah. So that's where I feel like I've been stuck, so far. So, Stephen, any wisdom or insights?
Oh man, I was just gonna share like definitely the stuck thing. I can feel that in myself. When I think about like some of my achievement goals, or like revenue goals or growth goals, sometimes they're just where I want to be versus where I am. Where I am is kind of like a copy and paste of 2024. And sometimes when you repeat the same year, like it's really hard not feel super stuck in that part where you're, and maybe it's because I'm mid-30s, getting that midlife crisis phase where like you just don't like you don't like things repeating. You want to see some change. You want to see some variety. I think that's kind of where I'm most stuck right now, is just trying to break through the plateau or to have something that looks new, get a paint job on my life.
I like that.
Gotcha.
Good book title.
Something that triggered for me that is a curiosity, and it's something that I struggle with in terms of this kind of getting stuck thing. And I read this or heard it first regarding software engineers, people that write code. And it's kind of like this rule that you never write the same line of code twice. If you have to write it again, and I'm probably paraphrasing, but if you have to write the same line of code twice, you ought to, it's best practice to write code that will rewrite the code for you.
Right.
And so I tend to get, like, if I'm doing, even for stuff like this, if I'm writing the description for this, and I've explained it to Stephen, and now I'm explaining it to David, and then I'm explaining it to Heather, if I'm typing that same block of text more than one time, like I need to write it down somewhere that I can copy and paste it, all right? And so something about systems and all of that stuff, but I end up like living in this in between of like, well, but I just need to explain it, and if I don't explain it right now, then that text thread is going to go down 1,000,000 miles down the road and get lost. So that's one of the, lately with all of the technology that we have, it's very easy to be like, ooh, how could I automate or make this better instead of just doing the thing? Or I get stuck just doing the thing over and over again instead of working on it.
But by the same token, are you not wanting to do that over and over again because you're afraid you're going to lose it up here?
I don't know that I'm worried about that yet.
I think the thought process there is like about efficiencies.
Yes.
Yeah. And when you said automated, it reminded me of a conversation you and I had a couple weeks ago. It was just kind of, like Rob mentioned, like in his 20s and 30s, like the mission could drive him for the work, right? Now, 20, 30 years later, after being, you said in your intro, you've been doing your stuff for 30 years. It's very easy to get like in the process and be like just operating based on like the operation manuals you built. And I know in our conversation, I was talking about like Man, when I started coaching, it was a completely different vibe, and now I feel sometimes like I'm playing someone else's game instead of the one I built.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
point.
It is interesting, Jonathan, what you said, because being in the technology field, there, people assume that, I'm a coder, that I write code. And yes, as a matter of form, I write code. But I've always claimed to be the anti-coder because of this exact strategy you spoke to, which is when I was learning coding, I was completely self-taught, and it drove me nuts to write the same line of code more than one time. And so every time I was writing this code, I kept asking myself, why am I doing this? What is it that's different this time than the last time? And that's where I developed my platform strategy. As I said, the only difference between this page and this page on the website is that this page has some different words on it, and it collects this data from it. And I was going, it's all data. So why don't I just build a database to keep track of all this data, and then let not the code, but as you said, actually, speaking of story thing, the programmer who most influenced me was one who actually said, I watched some code he had written just blossom in front of me, and I'm going, that's amazing. How did you do that? And he says, well, the difference is, he says, I don't write code to solve problems. I write code that writes the code that solves the problem. And that's what I learned to do. Is I don't write code to solve your particular problem. What I do is I write code that solves problems, and then I let you decide what it is you need. And as you're working, the code is working with you to actually solve the problem. So that's really, what, file that one away. Hopefully we'll come back and fit that one
Is there a
in.
metaphor in there somewhere?
Huh?
Is there a metaphor in there somewhere? About like, write the code that writes its code. Is there a way to put that into practical use in life, whether it be entrepreneurship, a business, or a personal relationship?
Well, that for me is an ongoing exploration.
I love it though.
is to, because I know we feel the urge, in business, we feel the urge of solving people's problems. But the challenge of solving other people's problems is that then we become responsible for that solution.
True.
And if it didn't work, we're to blame. That's why I always try to work with customers, say, what is the problem you want to solve? And let me see what I can do to bring the resources you need to do that. So, but I do want to keep us going. So the next part of the question that I had for you is, what is the impact that these experiences have had? And anyone, can you put some sort of a expectation? Is it outsized, and why? What is it that's brings that up as your issue that you identified? There's something driving it.
I mean, mine, I think, is, again, facing your immortality head on. It's kind of a weird scenario, as we've talked about in the past. But the piece of like not getting unstuck is that's taking up mental space that I really just get it done. But right now it's just, it eats up that part of my space that doesn't action in it. That would help, like kick off 2026 in a good note would be, getting that piece, but it's still like, but what if, and we've talked about but what if something changes, because with medical power of attorney, especially, there's just all these things you have to figure out. What do you want?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's a little bit of that fear mongering of once you're stamped, it's like, okay,
you're committed.
Yeah. And so that piece, there's other things obviously floating around in my life that I'm stuck on, but I've also unstuck myself quite a bit this year, as some of you know. But yeah, so it's, I think that fear of not fear of immortality. I know I'm immortal, but you know. Okay, mortal.
Can I extend what you're saying there? What I kind of heard you saying is that you're stumbling along like with almost anchors tied to you. Like it's like all these things, these anchors are dragging behind us of things that we should do. We set aside and we procrastinate. I mean, if you want to end the year right, wouldn't it be nice to just end with cutting all those anchors so that 2026 you have nothing holding you back?
Yeah.
Clean the garage, get that wheel notarized, change your pace, change your outfit, get a haircut, do something different.
I gotta get hair first.
Yeah.
Wear a hat. I don't know, something different.
There might be a challenge to that.
Like that though. I'm gonna cut my anchors before end of 20.
No, but I think you're right too about the anchors. I think
Yeah.
that hits home with me too. I do a lot of writing and I don't always organize very well. And now that I've written it, now what? Where does it go? Where do I put it so that I can absolutely get to it the next time I say, okay, I'm going to write for 2 hours. Where did I put it? What was the note?
My QA brain overcomplicates a lot of things that are very simple. Makes me a great project manager. Makes me not so great with some, again, simple tasks that really do anchor me. But yeah, so that's a big where do you put it? And I want all the processes, but sometimes the processors are too much. So
Kind of reminds me too. I believe it was Steve that actually said this a while back. We can.
If it was
all over
smart, I
ourselves.
said it.
Yeah, we can should have all over ourselves, right? That was you. Anyways, yeah. There's all these things that we should do and that we feel obligated to do. But also, I think there's those things that come up and like, oh, this is urgent, looks more fun. I'd rather just get this urgent, more fun thing done, and then I'll feel bad about the thing I was supposed to do later.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happens. I mean, we're all faced with challenges, every single day, and some are ones that we are welcoming, and some are just hit us in the face, and we're like, "Whoa, what was that? What now? What do I do?" Right?
Fractions of life.
Yeah. So when those things happen, it's like, you shake your head, like, "What am I supposed to do?" And sometimes this lyric comes to mind from the famous Ice Cube, "Check yourself before you wreck yourself." Actually, I think it's chickadee check yourself before you wreck yourself. And that's true. You should really just check within yourself to see what you can, how you can get unstuck, and really just look into that back pocket of things that you've been storing away that could be helpful, or just ask for help.
No.
Just ask for help. It's so hard for some people. Just ask for help.
I actually had a conversation with a good friend of mine that I'm working with, and mentioned that I was going to give her a shout out. And this last little bit of conversation really makes that really clear why I figured she would come up. But I work with Sharice Sauer.
Sharice great.
With Success Without Sacrifice coaching. And I knew from a project we're working on together that this would probably fit in today, but she has a whole routine called priorities over to-do lists. And one of the things she was speaking to is the shoulds and things like that. And she says the challenge is that we don't organize ourselves with the things that we want to get done. We overload ourselves with the things that we should get done, or the urgent things that are, and so we end up being stuck because we're not getting to the things that are important to us. We're always dealing with the urgent things that came up, and I've got to do this now, and this other thing goes over. So she would be a great person to be able to, guide you through a process of saying, okay, what is important to get done. And hopefully some of the suggestions I have for you will also speak to that. But that I thought I would contribute that because I heard, several of you speak to things. I'm going, oh, that's Cherie. That's Cherie.
And speaking of guests that aren't in the room, Gay just popped up on the screen. Gay, are you hanging in with us? Do you have any thoughts to weigh in on?
I do. One of the things that kind of came up that I was thinking about in this conversation, of many of you would speak to your superpowers, the things that you are really good at, and I think we need to acknowledge that and to know that those things are gifts, and we celebrate them, and you're not going to have superpowers in everything. So the idea of being able to ask for help from people who are better than you at certain things. And the other thing that I've been doing, and I've been doing it much more, is I'm really asking myself, is this mine to do? Because I have a tendency to say frickin' yes to everything. And overwhelmed. And I think, what have I done to myself? So there are times when I want to say yes, and I really look at it and I say, okay, here's what you've committed to. Here are the things that you need to do and so forth. Can you add this? Is it even possible? And then finally, that is it mine to do? And sometimes it really is. And I just really need to make room for it because it's all about my passion and how I want to show up. And I feel like it's a gift that's been given to me. So I'm going to rearrange things and make it happen. And other times it would be a favor for somebody and I'd love to do it for them, but I just can't because I have too much going on. So I think that when we do take a look at what we have left to do in this year to get ready for next year, remember that also that a year is just something, it's a made up thing.
Yeah.
It's, you have the past, you have this now moment, and you have the future, and they're going on at the same time. So it's kind of, you really need to be in the now as much as possible and what is yours to do now. And I think that really helps. But I know we all like to tie up the year and make sure we get those things done that we had on our list and have it not carry over. But you take a look at what truly is mine to do for this year, because some of those things absolutely could be the beginning of next year. So what is going to be supporting you in that? So that's my thoughts on it.
Love it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Well, isn't technology wonderful?
I love it. This is great.
We're loving this vision we're putting together here on Friday afternoons. Go ahead.
So something that Gay said that triggered something that I've worked on quite a bit, I would say this year, maybe into last year a little bit, is that same concept of, is it yours to do, but also, is it yours to say? And in the climate and culture that we're in right now, that's like, there's so many times that, like, let's just say Joshua has a very strong opinion about something. That's his opinion to have. Stephen has strong opinions. We all know that. and let's just say Heather walks into the room and she does or says something that I know both of them would have something to say about, right? And I all of a sudden have this manufactured obligation to speak up on their behalf to Heather. And it's like, whatever it is that she did or said doesn't bother me at all. But because I know it bothers you guys, I start to let that bother me. And this is how I first discovered this, like, it set me free. It was two or three winters ago. It was one of those just kind of like gray, cold, and everybody was complaining. Everybody that I talked to was like, oh, the weather. I started complaining about the weather. And it was like months into it, and I was like, wait a second, I'm miserable. Like, I'm not normally this miserable in the winter, but I'm miserable. And I realized I was just taking on everybody else's misery for no reason. And so, in conversationally, somebody might say something and you feel like, oh, Robert would definitely correct them if he heard that. You don't have to be that guy. Like it doesn't have to, and there could even be things that I feel really strongly about personally that you feel differently. I don't have to like, hey, let's have an argument about this. It's like, no, we see that part differently. Let's see what we have in common. And I think that's one of the themes that we've been hitting on. This has absolutely nothing to do with getting strongly about it. So
Sticking.
Here's one little tidbit that you don't mind. It'd be really quick. One big thing that helps me cut those anchors is just because I have a really long to-do list, pages, but I write everything down to dump my mind, and that just makes me feel that pressure comes off. And then the next step is literally to go through that entire list and start pulling up the most important things and only looking at one thing at a time. That's how you get unstuck in my world. So
it's interesting you say that. I tried that with ChatGPT, and ChatGPT was literally like, I can't handle this. It's too much.
Send you back a laughing face.
I'm the one that broke it, guys. I'm sorry.
oh, my best friend is gone.
No, what's interesting, Josh, on what you just said there is, again, that's part of Cherie's program, is you have to empty your mind, get it out on paper, because not only does it help you get those ideas unstuck, but it also relieves that load that you carry, because now it's objective. It's on paper. You don't have to hang on to it. You just have to manage the resource and go, okay, we have to go back and look at this list and reprioritize what needs to get done and do things.
It's kind of like treating it like the Kanban board of the QA world, where it's like you have it all on sticky notes and then you just move it and just grab some and chuck them away.
That's the idea I want to do. Sticky notes all over a whiteboard and just move them, because you can move them priority wise.
Yeah.
And then just throw them away, see the board empty.
Yeah.
Kind of a satisfying.
Anybody remember the Franklin planner?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I was thinking about that earlier in this.
Right, and you move things to the next day and you gave them an A, B, and C.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and it was also Franklin Covey that where I was first introduced to what you were talking about, urgent, and so it's like urgent and important but not urgent.
Oh yeah,
You've got the four quadrants right there. Look at this.
Front and back.
Look at this guy.
You a copy of it.
Came prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no way the camera will see that though. It's
Oh, we got it. Look at that. Beautiful.
I don't think it'll see it. We'll see here.
So what are
You
you
talking? Look at me.
What are you holding up, John?
Yeah,
So I'm holding up situational leadership, and it helps you basically decide if it's an important task you need to decide on right now, or if it's important but you can set it aside. And it's just all these Q&As of how to take your mind through that process so that you can kind of land on what's important and get that done. But it's right up this alley. So.
And of historical note, just random facts, this is what I collect. The Eisenhower quadrant.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Eisenhower was the most probably the most famous practitioner of that, guiding him through the war. So
Ben Franklin, same kind of thing, close.
yeah,
Weigh out, all the pros, all the cons, and it's pretty easy to make a quick decision if you just want to look at it in a logical, rational.
right. So being professor as I am, I don't want to just throw out questions and leave it open-ended necessarily. So I had started last Sunday when Jonathan and I were talking about what's coming up this week. I had in mind a resource that I wanted to bring up, something that's always been of value to me. And I went looking for it, couldn't get my hands on it, but then discovered from the same author a completely new set of something that really just hit me right away. And I was going, that is really powerful. So I'm going to share that with you, and we can wrap this around practical. What can we do in getting unstuck? So back to what was I thinking about, because this alluded to in our teasers for this week. Years ago, I read a book by an author by the name of Robert K. Cooper, and it was called Executive EQ. And it was from 1997. And Robert is a neuropsychologist, so he focuses on the workings of the brain and how to optimize and empower people through, understanding the way their brain works. And his executive EQ was about how to make better executive decisions, how to have better leaders by having them connect with the emotional quotient, not just be more authoritative, be this, be that. It was about connecting with what made them human, which he believed was, and that comes from psychology. So yes, we have our executive functions, but it's tied to the animal brain. So we make as much of our decisions emotionally and then justify them with logic as we do anything else. So his goal was to do that. And in that book, he shared a lot of formulas that he was teaching people how to make better executive decisions through simple models. And one of them that I fell in love with was opportunity sensing.
Yeah.
As an entrepreneur, you want to be sensing your opportunity. So we have 3 months. What can we get done? And what Robert wrote about then is he says, look, opportunity sensing is first you have to have a strong vision. You have to have values and purpose and goals that you're heading towards. The second part of it was, though, you have to be open to all the possibilities. You have to throw everything out there because you don't know what the answer is until you see it and then you go, that's what's been missing. But he said the most important element of it was the Zeigarnik effect. And everybody looked at Zeigarnik. What's that? Well, it was a very 1930s research project. And what Zeigarnik studied was the way people process current things that are going on around them. And she found that our ability to focus and remember things is directly dependent on whether or not it's closed or still an open issue. So what she found, for instance, her study was on waiters. Waiters have very poor memory of the facts and details about tickets that they've already rung up and cashed out, and people are gone. You go back and ask them, what did they have for dinner? Couldn't tell you. But if the ticket is still open, they know exactly. Oh, this is what's going on. They had this steak, and they asked me to go back and.
I get that every week when people are like, "How was your weekend?" It happened. I get the open close thing. Even like if I get back from like Vegas, I'll like the weekend it happened.
Yeah.
Well, that stayed in Vegas.
That's a different effect.
So Zeigarnik's, the result of her research was essentially the more we can keep issues open and we don't shut them down as saying, okay, that's been solved, the more likely we will see an opportunity to make it better, to improve on, as soon as we say, done, nothing else to do, then we shut that off and we're not going to see it. And so that's something I've always practiced. When I sit down with people, the stories about the past, and things I'm not interested in. What I'm interested in is what's the future. Because I want to see what's out there and what could we do to improve on things. And so I was really hoping to have this executive EQ in my hands so I could really reference it. And unfortunately, it's only in print. And library had a copy earlier this year, and it's not in their stacks anymore. So I was going, okay, well, this is a problem. So I started researching, and I was going, well, okay, what else has Robert done, or could I get my hands on? And I found this gem that I want to bring. And It's called Get Out of Your Own Way.
Mhm. Yeah.
5 steps to surpassing everyone's expectations. And I got my hands on it because there was a digital copy, and I started reading it, and I'm going, oh, this is good.
Mhm.
So I'm going to share with you his 5 steps, and I'm going to first give you the shorthand version, then I'll read a more descriptive. And what I'm going to ask you to do is figure out what is it that resonates with you from this list. So Cooper says there are 5 techniques to get unstuck here. First one is direction, not motion. Focus, not time. Capacity, not conformity. Energy, not effort. And impact, not intention. So let me give you a breakdown here of what he means by these. So direction, not motion. It's not how busy you are or how fast you're moving. It's how effectively you are moving in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
Focus, not time. It's not how well you plan your time. It's how effectively you put your attention on what matters most in advance and as it unexpectedly appears. Capacity, not conformity. It's not how good you are at copying others or making incremental improvements. It's how bold you are at unlocking potential in yourself and in others and applying it in new ways. Energy, not effort. It's not how hard you try or how long you work. It's how effortlessly you get more of the right things done. And impact, not intention. It's not how lofty your intentions are or how much you want things to improve. It's how measurable a difference you are making in living your deepest values and achieving your biggest goals.
Well, that's a good teaser for that book. Man,
Yeah.
awesome.
So that's the gift I'm leaving for you. And any of those jump out? We've got about 8 minutes left to pick up on.
Actually, I was gonna say, I think this happens to a lot of people. I know it has happened to me throughout my life, is talking about choosing the right thing to focus on or do what matters most first. But that's decision making on what actually matters most, because some things could be on the level playing field of what's mattering, and you're just like, well, which do I do first?
Yeah.
You know, making that decision of prioritizing, that could be hard for a lot of us, because there could be a lot of things in the fire that you're wanting to take care of.
If we could reference back to what his quote was, it's how measurable I'm making and achieving my biggest goals. So if you use something like one of those things as your check phrase to try to separate the priorities, like which one is going to get you closer to your goal, that might be the first step to take versus accomplishing just a mundane task of some kind.
Right.
Even if they're both like top of the list, got to get the garbage out. It's going to get picked up tomorrow, but I got to do this text because it's an important thread I don't want to lose to, like, someone that's, I don't want to drop any names, but important people. So yeah, I think a check phrase would be helpful.
And to kind of reference again, Cherie, she works with this in her program, is saying, yes, you're right. There are things that, things have to get done to get. What she focuses on, though, is the quality of life is going to be about whether or not every day you're doing something towards what is important to you and not just getting stuck in, I got to do this because it needs to get done. Somebody is waiting for this and things. And at the end of the day, you sit there and look and go, I didn't do anything I wanted to do today.
As a mother, as a father, whatever, but yes, you do things all day and then you, at the end of the day, you're like, what did I accomplish today?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and I would jump in here very not fully formed. Like this is just like aha-ish moment. I'm like gonna verbally process it. There is, like, to my point earlier of 3 months, like planning for 3, there is something to be said for doing the things that don't feel like they move the needle. And definitely of those 5 things, the impact, not intention, was like resonating with me. And so if I want to, you know, I mean, just imagine having like adult kids that are, you know, whatever your vision for your kids are, and they're 2 and 4 years old. Like that's years of changing diapers, doing dishes. I joke with my kids all the time about how much they eat. Like it's like there's a lot that goes into, and that's like one thing. But in business, like there are things of like, okay, I want to make this much money. Well, I produce widgets or I do a service or whatever. There is a certain amount of just servicing the client that it is, you say, okay, this is a priority because if I want to sell this house, I have to show houses to people. So, you know, whether it's an open house or like showings or, you know, coming to things like that, like there's certain things that you do that the thing is not the thing, but is needed to get to the impact thing.
The bridge.
It's it's stepping stones, however you want to, you know, whatever vernacular you would want to look at it in. So yeah, I think that there's a little bit of a both and to that aspect of it.
Yeah.
I think too, kind of going through this and looking, okay, the direction, focus, capacity, energy, impact. With all these things, what are our goals? What are we striving for? And I think a lot of people, when they get stuck, either lose sight of it or haven't really had a chance to think about what their goals are, what they want to do, or what impact do they want to have. And maybe that's changed. And so maybe in some area of yourself, your goal has changed, but you haven't identified that. So now you're stuck. So that's the other thing is how do we identify what are my goals now? And if I don't know what they are, okay, I need to do something to figure out what are those goals and then move towards that.
A lot of it,
Yeah, sure.
a lot of it is we just pretty much react to whatever's in front of us.
Yep. Yeah, and that's a lot of times when I feel stuck is, you know, and admittedly in my business right now, I'm in that wonderful mode where I'm stuck and I feel stuck, but it's really golden chains that I'm stuck with. It's like I could give up all of this stuff and make a really comfortable, good living, but my priorities have changed over time. And not so much. I mean, I have a priority that I've had for 20 plus years since I started my business, but I don't progress on that path because it's not what pays the bills right now. And yet I keep looking for conversations to go and say, you want to do this, right? You're really interested in this, aren't you? Because this is where I really want to be.
And then I call him and say, keep him busy. Oh, yeah, I got a few things in the wind, you know.
Any thoughts? You keep looking like
You look like you had something you wanted to.
Or are we over reading your face?
There was something earlier that Zane had said about like people are just kind of reacting and they're not deliberate about what they're creating, or the direction that they're going, to use Cooper's language a little more. And I just had this odd experience where like I set this really lofty 5-year goal, but it kind of helps kind of have like there's a detachment from it. So whether it seems realistic or not, the distance from it gives a lot of permission to dream truthfully and authentically, and like, what do you actually want to create 5 years from now? And then it's also in the process of going that direction, it's been really kind of stress free because any detour or any obstacle or any mistake that happens along the way, like 5 years away, I can make mistakes. I'll recover. It'll be fine.
Awesome. Well, we're kind of closing in on the end here.
Yeah.
Gay, you have anything to take us out with?
Me. Yes. I thought this was an awesome talk. I kind of wish it lasted a little bit longer, or that we were continuing the talk later. Rob, you're just such a gift to all of us. Thank you so much for your wisdom, your insight. And honestly, I loved this conversation. This was one of my favorite ones that you've ever done because of how everybody participated. You were all in. Love you.
Thank you,
Good
Gay.
job, everybody.
Awesome. I was glad having you on the call with us. To Gay's point, we actually do, after the camera dies here in a second, we do keep the conversation going a little bit. So just another reason, if you can make it down here on a Friday, we would love to have you. Action Business Furniture, corner of Park and Sprague. We're here every Friday. It's always a unique and wonderful conversation. Thank you to Action Business Furniture. Thank you to IDIC Designs for providing lunch. Thank you to Robert Reuter for an amazing topic. And, Joshua Jamerson providing tech. The camera.
And in a weird voice.
Yeah. And we will see you guys all next week. We have I'm really excited about next week's guest.
So we have Daniel Schaefer
Nice.
from We Few.
Yeah.
West. Well, I don't know what they we, but Few is the
Filmmakers of Eastern Washington.
yeah,
Yes. Mhm.
film something. Yeah, filmmakers of Eastern Washington, right? So it'll be a very interesting conversation about arts and entertainment in Spokane and what we're doing to actually make Spokane a go-to location for Hollywood.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, fantastic.
We'll have to make sure Ramel shows up.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, all right, guys, everybody, thank you. We'll see you next week. Like and share.